Well, the Prime Minister will hold bilateral talks with Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese tomorrow. Both sides will build on the annual Leaders Summit held in New Delhi and discussions at the G7 Summit and Quad Leaders meeting in Hiroshima. The leaders will likely focus their deliberations on trade and investment, people-to-people links, renewable energy and defence and security cooperation. The Australia-India relationship was upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership on the 4th of June 2020. In 2021, India was Australia's sixth largest two-way goods and services trading partner and fourth largest goods and services export market. Australian government data further states that two-way goods and services trade with India was over $34 billion in 2021. Our principal diplomatic correspondent Sidhant Sibol is now joining us live from Sydney. Hi Sidhant, Harris Park in Sydney has been renamed Little India as Prime Minister Modi arrived in Australia. These are some of the highlights of Modi's visit there. What is on the itinerary for the Prime Minister before their bilateral meeting with Anthony Albanese?
Well, the Indian Prime Minister's big focus today will be the Diaspora Connect. He will be addressing the Indian diaspora later today around 6 p.m. local time. But essentially, he's meeting the Australian CEOs and influencers as well. But when it comes to diaspora, that forms a key living bridge between India and Australia. There are a large number of Indian diaspora members who, of course, are enthusiastically waiting for the Indian Prime Minister's address. And we know that when it comes to diaspora's role in Australia, they have been playing an important and positive role, whether it's in politics, whether it is in other sectors of the society. Focus, of course, for the Prime Minister will be to talk about India's growth story, and we have seen in the past mega diaspora events of the Prime Minister, whether it's in New York or other parts of the world, how he has been talking about the India growth story in last few years, something that has been appreciated and lauded worldwide.
Sidhant, this is the last leg of Modi's three-nation tour. What has been his biggest or greatest achievement, highlight or even takeaway so far?
Well, essentially, it is to put India's perspective at the world stage, but also tell to the world that India can be the voice of the global south, something we saw at the Pacific meeting in Papua New Guinea yesterday, in fact. And last few days have been all about India's perspective, India's view on how India can engage with the world leaders. We saw that at the G7 outreach summit. We saw how the Indian Prime Minister engaged with world leaders. And of course, the big bilateral with the Ukrainian President Zelensky, he assured that India will do whatever possible when it comes to resolution of the ongoing conflict in Europe. So this visit has been about engagement, India's perspective, and how India can define and shape the global governance architecture.
Sidhant, lastly, what can we expect today?
Well, today, of course, will be the big focus on diaspora address. The Indian Prime Minister addresses the diaspora, but also engagement with the business leadership. The Indian Prime Minister has already met several Australian CEOs, and we know that how India and Australia have been converging on trade front. Yes, we saw how last year the Indian Prime Minister had been engaging with the Australian leadership, including, of course, the trade ministers meeting that led to the signing of the ECTA Pact. This year, both the Australian side and the Indian side have been engaging on a free trade agreement when it comes to trade, how it will be negotiated. Once signed, it will open up new opportunities for Australian businesses to go to India and Indian businesses to come to India and engage in further trading ties.
Live from Sydney, Australia, our principal diplomatic correspondent Sidhant Sibol, thank you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.